I have a story for you about the most actively haunted apartment that I ever lived in. And that's saying something because I've lived in several haunted places. It wasn't a very nice apartment, but it was cheap and we needed a place. It was one of those New England houses, originally a single family home, 3 stories and a basement. If you've ever been to New England or lived there, you know that they split those old houses up into as many apartments as possible. The floor plans just don't make any sense anymore. If you know, you know. I was on the 2nd floor. One guy lived below me who kind of kept to himself, and then the 3rd floor was vacant. Nobody lived up there. Nobody lived up there the entire time that I lived there. There was 2 ways to get into my apartment, to a door that just went into my apartment, and there was a front door, but the front door pointed toward the road, so no one really used it. So with me having my own entrance and the guy downstairs having his own entrance, there was really no reason for anyone to use it except whoever lived on the 3rd floor, which was nobody. And when I say an old winding staircase, I mean every single step sounded so loud and echoed through this stairwell, and it felt so rickety, like you were just gonna fall through. And the one door in my apartment that led into this staircase was screwed shut when we moved in. My boyfriend and I both worked at the same place down the road, maybe 5 minutes, and we worked alternating shifts. So if I was home, he was usually working. The house being built in the early 1900s, I think 1910. Every single step in this house, every floorboard creaked when you walked, so there was no sneaking around this house. You knew when somebody was coming in, up and downstairs, any of that. Again, if you've ever lived in New England, you know. It didn't take very long for things to start feeling really off. I would wake up in the middle of the night and hear footsteps above me in the vacant apartment. I would be kind of confused because I just woke up, and as soon as I'd be completely awake and listening, what is that? It would stop. So this continued on like this and kept happening enough where I would just ignore it because I didn't have any explanation, and it happened so often. And shortly after that's when I started seeing things. I felt watched constantly in this apartment. When I'm telling you guys, I couldn't even watch TV without it feeling like somebody was just staring at me from the doorway. It was just this extremely intense feeling of someone staring at you. I would always glance over expecting to see somebody standing there, and one night I did. I glanced over and there was actually a shadowy figure, and it was just the head peeking around the door frame and the hand on it, and as soon as I looked right over there at it, it just retreated and disappeared. I was alone, so after seeing that, I didn't even stay. I got in my car and I left. I drove down the road to my work where my boyfriend was, and I sat there with him until his shift was done and he could come home with me. I was that freaked out. Everyone was just laughing at me yeah, okay, whatever. As time went on, it just escalated. I continued seeing shadow figures out of the corner of my eye. They were always child-sized, which is terrifying, and it got so regular, just a normal part of your daily life at that point, that I just kind of started ignoring it the best I could. We were standing in the kitchen one night and the light started squealing and literally exploded. It popped instant glass everywhere. Another night we had friends over. It was New Year's Eve and the power went out. We had all had a few drinks and had nothing else to do, so we grabbed the flashlights and decided, let's go down to the basement, find a fuse box or something, explore, whatever. I expected the basement to be old and gross and stinky like most New England basements are. All the rock on the walls is all chipping and falling down and just dirt everywhere. But it was not quite what I was expecting. Everything was down there from an old dentist office. The chair was there, a very creepy old dentist room chair, trays, all the things that you would see in a dentist office in the basement, and very, very old, covered in dust and stuff. And we also found a Ouija board down there, which we stupidly took back upstairs with us. And it had red stuff smeared across it. It was a terrible idea. The next morning when I saw that Ouija board, I was like, wow, why did we bring this upstairs? And saw the red stuff smeared across it. I wasn't even going to inspect it further, and I carried it right to the outside trash and threw it away. Because I don't think you're supposed to try to destroy Ouija boards. I'm not entirely sure, but throwing it away seemed like the best option. And after that, the sounds changed. It wasn't just walking upstairs anymore. It was like kids running back and forth. It happened all the time, like not just at nighttime, but in the daytime. It was unmistakably the sound of kids running back and forth and playing, and nobody lived up there. And the only entrance was that stairwell. A few of the customers at my work, when I told them where I lived, had things to say about it. Now, these two customers had nothing to do with each other, and it wasn't even on the same day. They weren't together. When they said these things, one of them said, "Oh yeah, that apartment's super haunted. I've known several people who have lived there." I'm like, oh, okay. And the other person said, "Oh, I knew somebody that lived on the 3rd floor of that apartment. Did you know that there's a ghost of a guy and 2 kids in that apartment on the 3rd floor?" And I hadn't told either one of them like what I've seen or heard. So that was pretty scary for me to hear that other people have heard and seen what I was seeing. I never saw or heard a guy, just the kids. So one night, a friend and I decided to open up the stairwell door. We opened it up and we climbed up to the 3rd floor, and we had 2 recorders to see if maybe we could catch some sound on recording and just see what it was. I don't know. So we went upstairs and we sat down outside of the door of that apartment. It was pitch black. Nobody was in there. No lights underneath the doors, nothing. And we both sat there silently staring at each other while listening to footsteps in that apartment and hearing the like moving around. And we even got on our recorders the sound of a child voice saying, "Mama, Mama." Like, we both looked at each other when we heard that with our own ears, and when we went back and listened again, sure enough, it was there. And hearing these things while you're sitting outside of this door, it was so convincing. We're like, is somebody really in there? Like, are they gonna just open the door at any moment and be like, "What are you guys doing?" No, nobody was in there. Confirmed with everyone around that no one lives up there, nobody had been doing work up there, nobody goes up there, period. So we went back down into the apartment. My friend told my boyfriend that he heard it too. We screwed that door back shut. Things just continued happening while I lived there, but it just became so constant that I almost got used to it, but I could not wait to leave that apartment. It would get to the point where I would say out loud, "Please stop it." And sometimes it would. I've had strange experiences in other places that I've lived, but that apartment was absolutely the most active that I have ever stayed in. I'll talk about the other places that I've stayed another time. But until then, if you have a story you want me to read, just send me an email.